What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nashville Scene Podcast, your favorite podcast. But we got another great podcast that we're going to talk about today. I'm your co-host, Jerome Moore, with my amazing newly just returned a lot of lobsters.
Oh, yeah.
DPR, who is the editor-in-chief of the Nashville Scene. What's going on, man?
Great
Welcome
intro
back.
once again, JLM. Appreciate it. Yes, I spent about a week in Maine, and I managed to come back after eating about 75 oysters. It was incredible. I loved it.
Still look fit, though.
Thank you. Well, it reminds you live in a landlocked state when you come home and you can't buy fresh oysters. But yes, I'm home, back for the last episode of the second season of the Nashville Scene Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We have two very special guests today. I'll introduce you guys. They are featured in last week's Nashville Scene cover story, all about a brand new podcast called We Are North Nashville. To my immediate left is the Reverend Dr. Marguerite Smithson. Hello, Reverend Smithson. I know you don't get hung up on titles, but I'm probably going to try to call you Reverend Smithson.
That's perfectly okay.
Okay, thank you. And next to her is M. Simone Boyd, who is part of the podcast, also a writer. You've actually written for The Scene a couple of times, right?
Yes.
So thank you both for joining us. We're very excited to have you here. It's a great cover story from Alejandro Ramirez, the Scene's managing editor, diving into the podcast and talking to some of the elders featured and talking to you, Simone. But I'll just start off by asking you, Simone, how did this podcast come to be and whose idea was it and who's involved?
Before you say that, thank you for starting up as a North Nashvilleian. Thank you on behalf of all North Nashvilleians for documenting doing this because it's necessary.
That's right.
And so many of us don't have family members maybe that's alive to be able to tell these stories and talk about North Nashville in a way that y'all are currently talking about on the podcast. So I just have to say thank you.
Yes.
And I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you for that, JLM.
My name is now an acronym. It's sticking.
So I want to start by saying thank you too, because the cover story that Alejandro wrote was so beautiful. I was with Reverend Smithson. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I read the first two paragraphs and I was crying. And it was just, you really captured the pace of Reverend Smithson's life. You captured some of the elders so beautifully. The photos were beautiful. And I'm just so grateful for how you all covered this, how you all carried the story. So first, I want to start by saying thank you.
Alejandro. All I had to do was just check it for typos, and there weren't any, and I was like, that's good. We're good to go. But thank you for saying that.
And I have to say that, some of our elders have been getting calls from all over the country about people who've have read the story and seen the story. And so it's celebrating them. It's lighting that match to celebrate them. That's exciting. We're so grateful, so grateful. So to answer your question, I think it goes back to what you were saying, Jerome. I had a loss in my family last fall. My mother-in-law, who was just, my husband's mother, who immigrated from Nicaragua, was an incredible healing force in my life. We lost her due to a years-long battle in dementia. And it got me to thinking about all the people in my life who love me and care for me and who have cared for my family. And it just made me really think like we need to document and gather. And there's so many elders in North Nashville and so many elders in North Nashville who have been particularly kind to my family. And they still have their memories of the stories. They're still active in North Nashville. So it felt really important to celebrate them while they're here.
I know for me personally, you all did something that internally at kitchen tables that people who grew up in North Nashville, it's like, man, we just need to just put a camera up or audio and just get these stories. And then what happens is people lose their lives for whatever reason. And you're like, dang, I missed the opportunity. So that's why I think I cherish this so much, because like y'all are doing what me and my cousins and uncles, like we always talk about, remember when Uncle Jimmy did this and done that, like, what I'm saying, these real North Nashville legends, right?
All right.
And they did these things that we weren't allowed to see, or our older cousins could tell the younger cousins about, and it's just a beautiful thing. And so, yeah.
We hope that people will capture those stories. We hope that it will, help other people recognize, there's time. While you have it, run with it however you can.
It reminds me a little bit of earlier this year, Diane Nash, of course, a huge civil rights icon in Nashville. We dedicated the Diane Nash Plaza to her, even though there's a rule in Nashville that you can't dedicate a street or a park to anybody living. And I like this kind of clever move that some folks in Metro came up with is like, well, let's name the plaza. It's not a street. Let's do that. And that way we got to celebrate Diane Nash while she's still with us. She came down, and it's so much more special when the person is there to be celebrated, right? Reverend Smithson, will you just tell us a little bit about your congregation and your service there?
Well, at Watson Grove Baptist Church, I tell people, I am not senior pastor. I'm just a servant. But I've been a member of that church for like 64 years. So the church basically is my life. We are located in South Nashville, and we're across the street from the HL Projects. So that gives us a ministry that goes back generations and keep on going on and on. I guess the part that's closest to me is I work in our office, so I help with assistance with rent, utilities, and so I get to hear the stories. Cannot help everybody, but I will do the best that I can to help you because we're a church, and I know people think you got a lot of money, but you don't. I mean, just because you see 300 people on Sunday morning doesn't mean we have $30,000 a week coming in. It just doesn't happen.
It doesn't? Not exactly how it works.
Yes, and I can't pay you a $1,400 rent bill either.
Everybody calling you. I need some help.
But I love doing that, and I've done that for so many. I can't even remember how long I've been doing that. Probably 50 years or so. But the thing that's closest to my heart, the ministry is closest to my heart, other than the seniors, is the church pantry. And it is so hard to try to keep enough food to give out. We're in a food desert there. Grocery store. What is a grocery store in the heart of the AHL projects? Right. It doesn't exist. So we are able to give out whatever we get in through donations. And anybody out there wants to donate something, let me know. I'll come by and pick it up because we are constantly. We give out probably somewhere about 25 bags of groceries, and this represents 25 families per week. That's a lot of food.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's my heart. I love doing it. They keep telling me I need a Joshua, somebody to come along behind me, but I haven't found one yet. Looking, but you got to have compassion. You got to be able to give people what they need, and not all of what they need because we don't have all of it, but we can assist. But that's my heart. The food pantry is my heart.
That's where your heart lies with your service?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
I do want to mention Steve Harouche and Andrea Tudhope, who are central in the and bringing together the podcast. And Andrea is the host, sort of, the central voice
she's our
of it.
executive producer.
And both Steve and Andrea are with the Nashville Banner, which is a great nonprofit partner of ours. It's not affiliated directly with the Banner, but they do good work over there too. So I just want to mention them before any more time slips away.
They're terrific people. I enjoy working. Didn't know them before, before we got involved, but they are terrific. Love them all.
Really,
I feel
work.
like God keeps adding on all these children. I got a lot of children being added on. Man. Y'all want to be my children too?
Sure. I get the impression that everybody you meet kind of becomes a child. You know what I mean?
Especially if you're paying people's rent. I'll be your favorite child.
Stop it.
What's the impact that you all hope to have with the podcast, as far as just inspiration, the storytelling, whatever it looks like for you all when you think about now y'all in it. It's happening. Episodes are coming out.
Yeah. So you want to start, Reverend Smith? Okay. You start.
I'm hoping, and we don't know whether it will or not, but I'm hoping that each generation will be able to understand that you've got it better because of generations before you. I tell my children all the time, they need to understand what you do now, your mom wasn't always able to do that. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to tell the story, keep the stories going, so that people will know from whence they came. One of the no-nos, people don't talk about it much, but when I was a little girl, you couldn't go in a public place and use the water fountain or the restroom unless it had color up a sign. now our children can walk in anywhere and do whatever they want to do. You need to understand that didn't come just easy, and it wasn't handed on a silver platter. So we want them to understand that. Up in Elizabeth Center, we have. They're still there. They were supposed to be there, like a year? Don't tell our secret. But there were what we call community moms. My mom was one of them, but there are 4 beautiful pictures up there. And we were so excited that they let us do that. But it was a time when you had each neighborhood was a community. It was a village. And my mom might be your mom. Your mom might be my mom. And if your mom spanked you, okay, you go home and you get another one.
Right.
Yeah, because everybody was there to protect you. You felt loved. You felt protected. And I'm not sure all of our young people now, going back 2 or 3 generations, because drive-by shootings, people being rude to one another. Who gets upset and go cutting in front of somebody in a car? I remember times when you could drive down the street, take your time. If people got on your nerves, they just went around you and that was it.
Right.
But we don't have those kind of times now. So we need to let our people know.
Especially around like Elizabeth Park and
You
Elizabeth
better
Center,
believe
Jefferson Street, Buchanan area. It was a walking community.
It was,
anyway.
you walked.
And I know, because off of Clay Street, North High used to be over there,
North High.
right? And so,
I'm very
so the
familiar
only
with
reason
North High.
so my daddy went to North High, and so that's how, because if my daddy didn't tell me these things, there's no way I would know. Oh, there was a high school.
Yeah.
Oh, here before they built Rice Creek and
Oh,
all
yeah,
of those
yeah.
things, right?
I
And so,
can,
like,
North Nashville, North High.
so right, see, that's what I look. So I'm
During-
excited,
yeah.
like.
During the summer, my sister and I think we were like 12, 13. They had a summer program. So we signed up for it. You got a little bit of money to clean and like. But one of the things that, and I've told Simone this before and she knows it, one of the things that stuck with me more than anything, I think, we were cleaning up North High, and we stacked up all the new books. The older books were stacked off and they were assigned to the black schools. And that hurt me. I'm a reader, so I love to read. And it hurt me that they got the white children got the new books. We got the older ones. And these are things that people just don't know. And like I said, everybody, black and white, take things for granted when it wasn't like that all the time.
It seems unthinkable now that there's plenty of racist policy and all that, but the thought that it's like that's the stack for the black kids, it's the older ones. It's like unimaginable. So if people didn't grow up with it, it seems almost like just a story and not reality.
And it may not have even been policy. It could have been whomever was there that was supervising us, but they're the ones that had us to do that. And that's what stuck with me. It's almost like you don't deserve that. And that's the one thing we need to let everybody know. Everybody's created in the image of God, and you are special. Doesn't matter, black, white, pink, purple people eaters. Okay, but you are special. You're created in the image of God.
So this new Nashville, which because of the proximity to inner city downtown, the growth North Nashville is a different North Nashville.
It is.
Or growing into a different North Nashville, right?
It is.
What is your take?
Well, when they told me that I was in the downtown area, downtown where? I was just, no, seriously.
Yeah.
They kept, because you got downtown, Midtown. I said, Midtown? Midtown's just over there. It used to be Baptist Hospital. Now it's
That's where I was born.
Yeah.
I was born in Baptist.
And, but what I'm saying is like, somebody has gotten lost because we are just in North Nashville. North Nashville was full of love. We knew where, like you said, Baptist. We call it Baptist. Sorry, St. Thomas.
St. Thomas, yeah.
But it was Baptist, and we knew that if you got hurt or whatever, we were going to Baptist Hospital.
Right.
And I think that's one of the points that you were saying about the new Nashville. One of the things that we want to take away from the podcast is a sense of belonging. Some of the elders have talked about how they don't feel like they belong anymore in the neighborhood. So for people who are moving here, when you see an elder, when you see somebody who maybe is older, maybe who doesn't look like you, say good morning, speak, try to get to know them, get to know their stories. So belonging, respect. as our community changes, we feel like there is some erasure happening with regards to naming and how things happen. And so respect for North Nashville and its history, but then also just, again, holding the stories of all the people that have, like Reverend Smithson, like I have a sidewalk on my street because of elders and ancestors before me who called the city, fought so hard for those things. And so, gratitude and celebrating their efforts.
Yeah. I try to hold that pridefulness that I have. It's not for North Nashville, but for Nashville.
Yeah.
Especially for those who are, moving here. I don't take no disrespect to Nashville. I'm prideful. Especially North Nashville, but to try to, in a respectful way, understand, hold on, wait a minute now. I know y'all giving new names and acronyms to communities. I don't know where y'all coming up from, but this is, and that's why I'm real, when it comes on pronunciating certain streets, don't tell me Buchanan. Nah, we're going to keep it Buchanan. We know what it's supposed to say. Yeah, we know what it's supposed to say, but we got it, because that's the soul. That's part of, who we are.
That's the heart.
Yeah, it's the heart. And so that's what they respect, but also pride for Nashvillians and people that grew up here. We have to make people respect that aspect.
Yes.
We just can't assume that they're going to do it, but we got to respectfully make them respect it.
Yes.
So respect it. For real.
And I think there's so many people who want to.
Yeah.
There's just
They just don't know.
They just don't know.
They just
And so that's
Listen
what
to the pod. North Nashville podcast.
Simone, you mentioned erasure, and I think you can't really talk about North Nashville and that sort of piece of it without talking about I-40 and the building of the interstate.
Yeah.
And Reverend Smithson, you were around for that. Was it something that, did everybody feel it coming, that this is going to be an immensely impactful thing? For those who don't know, Interstate 40 was constructed right through the heart of North Nashville in the 1960s, and really just sort of decimated a lot of really important cultural places in that city, in that part
families,
of the city.
businesses.
It just sort of cut in half, and a lot of people were displaced. We did not see it coming as a community. Now, I will have to say that, and I didn't really understand. I had a deacon and his wife at my church. They actually told me, says, be careful, because we have seen the plans that they have for Nashville. And this was 10 years before that even happened. But they were active in the community, and they told me, says, be careful and make sure you hold on to your place. Hold on to where at that time I was living with my mom over on 14th. But for instance, when they cut through with the interstate, I know, and I've said this before, commerce and convenience and all of that. But I lived on 14th Avenue. And I could just walk up the street from 14th up to 14th and Jefferson, catch the bus, especially when I was going to Tennessee State, because that's the end of the bus line. We went out there. When they did that, I had to either walk all the way up to 18th or go back around to about 10th. There was no place for me to catch the bus.
Right.
And if you were doing that, if you had evening classes or something like that, that's not a really good thing. But nobody cared.
And in the podcast, we dig into the interstate disruption and just how it really ripped the fabric of the community apart. But even in that, people like Reverend Smithson, Thomas Wilson, so many people stayed, even when people showed up at their house, eminent domain, saying you have to move. There are people who stayed in place. And Reverend Smithson, it's hard to envision, because people who were born after the 50s and 60s don't just have a concept of Nashville before the interstate. But Alejandro and I, when he was working on the story, we got to take a walk past where Reverend Smithson's land, where she grew up. And, it's like, he's like, wait a minute, we're only 4 blocks from where we started. I was like, I know, but it's like a 20-minute walk just because of how the interstate blocks your way. So,
wow. Well, and you talk about the people sticking around and kind of, that making, I feel like drawing the community together even more in its wake. And, I don't want just a recounting of North Nashville to be all the bad that's befallen it. There's a lot of positivity and hope in the community, like enduring, right? And still there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And that shows up. Go ahead, Reverend.
Oh, no, I was just, it's like we held on and we're still there. And no matter what comes, we're still here. We're not going anywhere. We're still here. And I think it made us stronger, those of us that stayed. However, it does wear on you and work on you because walking through our neighborhoods is so different now. And so many houses they've torn down and put all these modern houses up. Don't look like a home. I'm not sure what it looks like. But anyway, we need our family houses back, which we probably won't get back. But it just takes away. It takes a little bit away from you. Mm-hmm. However, we still have that sense of community, you know, with Barbara, Mr. Thomas, Melvin, Leah. We still have that. And we can get together, talk about it. And now that since the podcast and all the other little things that Simone has gotten us into, everybody else knows about it too. And so it's not just the nucleus. Now it's beginning to spread. So
yeah,
that's a good thing.
And I would say, like, one of the things that North Nashville has maintained is that sense of culture. If you think about the Aristocrat, like TSU's band and the football games and homecoming,
Grammy-winning band.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there are so many
Fifth Jubilee singers.
Fifth Jubilee
Let's
singers.
just go ahead and just say it, Simone. If you think about Nashville, the fabric of Nashville is North Nashville.
Absolutely.
We
Like,
think
if you
so.
just think about
Yeah.
all the great things that represent the brand of Nashville,
Came out of North Nashville.
let's just call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is. And shout out to all the other sides, but let's just call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is. And that's okay.
I'm not about to stick up for East Nashville. Surrounded by North
East
Nashvilleians.
Nashville.
I mean, yeah, it's
But shout
great,
out-
but I mean,
but,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But we're talking about from
We don't have the Fifth Jubilee singers. So
Right.
Yeah.
No, you
not
don't.
The
exactly
African
fair.
Street Festival,
Yeah,
like
African
all
Street
the-
Festival.
Yeah. And so HBCU, like
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
Music City comes from the it's just the whole brand, right?
It
And so
really comes.
we just put some respect on it and just call it what it is.
Well, I want to make sure people know where to get the podcast. Usually people know you can get it from Apple and Spotify and all the things. You can also stream the first episode embedded in the online version of our cover story, which is a fun little thing we
Thank y'all for
did.
doing that.
Do you want to tell anybody any more details about the podcast? How many episodes?
Yeah, so it's 5 episodes total, but I will say that it's a 2-year multimedia storytelling project. So we did a photo shoot this summer. An amazing photographer, Deshaun Lewis, took their elders' photos, but we hired a makeup artist. We had a set. Like there's so many components. Even the launch event, like we had ballerinas perform, and so
They were beautiful.
That's amazing.
But the thing was, they were beautiful, but they were black and beautiful.
Yeah.
and so
Which,
so it is a
Go
story.
hand in hand.
Yes.
Like,
Say that.
Yeah,
Say
go
that.
hand in hand. Like, what?
And so we encourage people to subscribe to the website because we really want to include people who want to know more about North Nashville and connect with North Nashville to come out to the events. You'll get to meet the elders. We had a dinner party, an intergenerational dinner party last month where we invited people from the community, younger people, to connect and get to meet the elders before the podcast launch. So we just feel there's lots of different components and things that will be happening over the next 2 years.
Tell us about Arthur. The overpass.
Yes, the
overpass.
lighting. Yes. So
Arthur,
last year we had a dinner underneath the interstate, and we
She pulled it off. I don't know how she put it. We were eating under the overpass. It had chandeliers and
That's amazing.
everything.
Right there by the
On
split
Arthur.
between. Oh yeah. Okay,
On Arthur.
Yeah,
Yes.
underneath.
Yeah.
So
Underneath
the
it.
split, the
Wow.
split.
Yeah.
But we were underneath it on Arthur Avenue,
Wow.
and so we're just thinking of this as a way to bring people together.
Yeah.
You know, we're in uncertain times, and we have elders who have seen Vietnam take so many people from our community, who have lived through the assassinations of Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, and somehow they've managed to keep going and cultivate joy. You know, the election's in less than 60 days, and we really want people to gather wisdom from them. Like, how do you move through hard times and still hold on to yourself? And that's what we witness in these elders and their stories that they share. So 5 episodes. They will drop on Thursdays once a week.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank y'all so
amazing.
much.
Everybody needs
Yeah.
to know we can hold on because we've got God. We've
Yeah.
got Christ.
Right.
And that was one thing was always taught in the community. Just about everybody, even those that had a little salty mouth, they knew they knew about Christ.
Right.
And that was during a time when people had respect for ministers, but people don't always have respect for ministers now, because I came through that era when if a minister walked by, somebody was cursing or whatever, they said, "Oh, I'm sorry," but now they don't do that. So North Nashville represents that time when there was a lot of not only love but respect, and they encouraged you to get your education. Like I said, I lived on 14th and I walked up the street to catch the bus to go to TSU. So there was a lot of encouragement as well as love, because I think our forefathers knew there's a brighter day ahead, but it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter.
But I want to say this too. I know we've got to close, but as elders, y'all are not only like the key to the past, but also in my mind to the future as well. And so I think it's for myself and other young folks that might be from North Nashville to keep that in mind as we have a changing community, to reach back and not only just to listen to the podcast, but to talk one-to-one to whatever elders you knew that might have stories, that might have ideas and perspectives. And I think sometimes we can get that lost a little bit and like, hey, just tell us about the good old days back when the number house used to be by the funeral home. That green.
But the number houses were taking care of the community. They were raising tuition, taking care of like those things that people
See, I could have been an elder on the pod. Just if I didn't know. But like, to keep that in mind, like it's not about like, hey, tell me about but what is your ideas about moving forward? And so I hope y'all get into that a little bit in some of the pod too.
We do.
Okay.
If I can just piggyback on what you said about so LT, Larry Turnley Jr., he is 20 years younger but a lot of people look up to him in the community. Every Thursday, him and his father pick up bulk items and clean up the alleys. And that's just one example of like how and he gets to know people and people call him. So there's ways to build community in service to your very neighborhood. And so I love what you said about like, what do we do now? We definitely get into that.
We call him our junior elder.
Look, when I seen him, because I know LT, I was like,
no, he's a junior elder.
And I must be a junior.
But people look up to him, though.
He does a lot of impactful stuff. North Nashville, South, he does a lot. He does a lot.
Yeah. And Jerome was asking before we started rolling, he's like, okay, how do I submit my application? I want to be an elder. Come on.
I just wanted the respect to come with it, because that's respect.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Keep on doing what you're doing.
I'm an honorary junior elder.
Well, I think that's it. I want to thank you guys again for joining us. It's been such a pleasure. The podcast is really, really something special, and I look forward to listening to the rest of it. Thank you guys for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it. That's the pod. Go subscribe and like both pods.
Like and subscribe. Both pods.
Both
that's
pods,
right.
yeah.
We're going to take just a few weeks off, and we'll be back with season 3 before you know it.
Number 3.
Cool. Thank you.